What
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 is
is
self?
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 Um,
So I just give it like what I want to say.
Well,
I don't really know. I'm still trying to figure it out, I think.
So, self means to me like
When I think about self,
Self to me, I don't know, kind of like your identity.
To me, self could be a lot of things or everything.
To me, self is anything that comes from one person that represents who they are.
I think that self is the driving force that powers you creatively.
Self is a collection of experiences.
Self is individuality.
Self is a myth, an idea, and a concept.
to me, it seems like the thing that's underlying your me. You know, the constant, the little story that you're telling yourself.
The self is the culmination of experiences and stories.
I was born brown.
kind of, not holding back who you want to be because I feel like for a lot of my life, like the majority of my young life, I kind of hid who I was and I was kind of like scared to embrace who I was and I didn't really have the knowledge and stuff like about my identity. Like I didn't really have that kind of knowledge in my life taught to me or anything, like how I was grown, like how I grew up and everything.
So, the way I guess that I feel about myself or think about myself is emotionally as well as logically.
I think self is our truest form that's always changing.
Self changes a little bit over time.
If that makes sense, the self.
A collection of choices passed on generation to generation.
Which is kind of where myself started. And I say that because my parents defined it for me, and my culture did as well. The space around me didn't necessarily, but
It's the culmination of everything we taste and hear and look at and feel.
Something that no one can take away from you.
And a very concrete thing all at the same time.
A point in time representing that sacred hoop of life.
The thing that is hearing and telling the story. That's what I think about the self is.
It's a mix of our reality and our experiences and who we're trying to become and grow into.
And it's quite simply the collection of stories of the consejos that you've learned from the people around you, from your city, from your grandparents, from the desert in which you reside.
Self is your interests and your fears and the things that keep you pushing forward.
It being, whether it being art or anything, not even art, just how you go about life and how you handle situations and how you treat others.
I guess self to me is everything that you are and that you do. It's kind of the clothes that you put on and how you wear them, and it's the type of notebooks that you keep and what you keep in them.
It's the thing that's always there. That doesn't really. That knows it's pretending to be separate, but it isn't. Like separation isn't real to it.
Continuous cycle.
Self sets us apart and makes us unique.
myself is very much my skin. Myself is also my expression. That comes from that part and some other parts that have grown.
And the combination of all those things, of the stories and the experiences and all those feelings, turn into one entity, which represents the self in the body that you reside in all the skin and bones that make up just the vessel in which you carry yourself.
Self is kind of embracing all like the difficulties and confusing things about youth, and kind of like using that as a strength for your identity, and to be able to now, like, I'm able to embrace who I am and kind of express myself more freely than I ever have. So yeah, it's kind of just being able to feel more free and liberated in my identity and not being scared of being judged by other people.
I think it's our pure thoughts and emotions without any effect of the assumptions and fantasies that other people have about you.
Self is love.
Whatever your creative avenue is, whether that's writing or dance or music, and for some, it's all of these things. And I think all of these accumulate to be the self.
But then at the same time, it's like, who really are we? I feel like as humans, we're constantly evolving, constantly changing ourselves, constantly. I don't know. This is crazy.
Yet every self carries so much with it.
Other parts of myself are my family, and my culture also plays a part in that, but
It doesn't know of judgment. It's just always there, patiently watching, observing.
Self is self.
Your inner person or inner being, and to understand what that is and start working with it and start loving that thing, that being, and who you are.
I'm always looking for problems and trying to solve them, regardless of how many hours it might take or what it might cost me. Myself is defined by my actions and my spirit as someone born in Tucson, but brought from another country.
Self is spiritual survival student.
The truest form of the individual. The only individual.
I think it'll always be a lie, but it's a lie that needs to constantly evolve, and we grow into it eventually. So when we accept the lie, I think that's self. Well, it's like self, but the end of self.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, who really are you?
And it's all beautiful at the same time. But yeah. What does self mean to you?
What does
What
self,
does self
mean
mean
to
to me?
me? Okay, well, so I guess self.
What self means to me is
individuality that nobody could take from you.
How I perceive myself, who I am, my likes, my dislikes.
It's self-expression and being who you want to be.
It means being brave. Is a work in progress,
and being able to see other people's self and like that true self, that raw, uncensored self is an eye-opener and a really, really big step into finding yourself.
How I feel people perceive me, how I perceive other people.
how you appear, how you feel.
Showing that vulnerability to yourself.
Inner reflection. I don't know. I guess it's just something
Expressing yourself to... Wait, damn it.
Taking all the masks off. I don't know what is here.
People can try to replicate, people can try to duplicate, but no one can truly take from you.
To me, self is like my own universe, and it has its own set of, I don't know, like rules and stuff like I should do, stuff I shouldn't do. Like, should I eat that cupcake? Should I not eat that donut? Yeah, I'm going to go get that Starbucks later if I go to the gym, because I know myself, and myself is a greedy kind of person, and I don't know, like when it comes to food, not only food, but, you know, it's just like, I just feel like, you know, I have to set rules for myself because I know myself. It's like
It's a journey to really find the things that make you grounded, the things that make you accentuate the feelings that you have as you grow, you know?
Self is an identity.
Your identity.
How you want to be.
Being who you are on the inside, on the outside, I should say.
Who you're with forever, I would say.
Changes, but it's like this. It's like the same thing that you take with you everywhere, but it's like constantly changing what it looks like and like what it is.
Self can be something that you put up for others in certain situations that you might not put up in other situations for your own self.
Being present is yourself.
the self wants what it wants.
And really knowing who you are.
Not being afraid to expose those feelings and wear them out on your sleeve, even if it's with other people or yourself.
But sometimes you don't know. I mean, sometimes you think you know yourself and you really don't.
Do you ever really find yourself?
I think when we think of self, we really think of individualism, but I feel like the self is the balance between the individual and the community that surrounds it.
And not what society tells you you should be or who you are.
Not holding anything back because of society or what other people put on you, or whoever you're around.
Self for me is validating my own emotions, validating my feelings, and not caring about who the fuck else wants to put those opinions and burdens on me.
If you are centered in things like justice or things like art, many intersections collide. And I feel like the self is finding the beautiful parts of that collision and making a sense of order from all that chaos.
Feeling your feelings is yourself.
It's like your own higher conscience.
So having a good sense of that and the knowing.
Self is me, and it's my reflection, and I'm gonna own it.
It's like it's not any one singular thing. It's a whole bunch of things. It's like.
But it's like you always know it's the same thing.
Self, to me, really means us.
And it all comes together. All of our experiences, everything we ever are or were, is just based off of what we've seen, what we've done.
Feeling triggers and going through memories is yourself, and healing is finding yourself.
Like Shrek, Onion, stuff, etc., etc. I don't know. I just don't want to be afraid anymore. That's it.
It's the individualism that turns into a common union, a community of sorts.
And it all combines into one person who's ourself.
Sectioning every level frequently.